Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Night Parshat class. Tonight's class is sponsored by Mrs. Sarah Carmelli in honor of a new great-granddaughter that was born, I believe, today. Yes? Anyway, so she is sponsoring the class in honor of her new great-granddaughter. She should only have simchas and only good things. Okay, this week is Parshat Tetzaveh. Okay, this week is Parshat Tetzaveh. Parshat Tetzaveh is a very unique parsha. The Balaturim brings down, other commentaries bring down, from the time Moshe Rabbeinu was born, at the beginning of Shmos, besides the book of Dvarim, which is Moshe Rabbeinu speaking, Moshe Rabbeinu's name is mentioned in every single parsha of the Torah, from the time Moshe Rabbeinu was born. Through the book of Bamidbar and part of Devarim, Moshe Rabbeinu's name is mentioned. The only time he's not mentioned is Parshat Tetzaveh. Why isn't Moshe Rabbeinu's name mentioned in Parshat Tetzaveh? So they say because Moshe Rabbeinu in next week's Parsha, in Parshat Kisisa, which speaks about the golden calf, and Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, I want to destroy the Jewish people. They just sinned 40 days after receiving the Torah. They went and worshipped the golden calf. I want to destroy them. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, he basically, I don't want to use the word blackmail, but he threatened Hashem. He said, you're either going to forgive them, and if not, I want you to erase me from the book that you wrote. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, if you don't forgive the Jewish people, I don't want to be mentioned anymore in Torah. Take me out of your book. You have to forgive the Jewish people. So even though we know Hashem did forgive the Jewish people by the golden calf, nevertheless, the Gemara says that when a tzaddik curses, even if the curse is not fulfilled, it still has an effect. It still has a ratio, it has a mark, it has an effect. And because of that, Moshe Rabbeinu's name was taken out of one parsha, a Chumash Parshat Tetzaveh. Why did they pick Parshat Tetzaveh? To take out Moshe Rabbeinu's name from the parsha. So it says because Moshe Rabbeinu's yahrzeit is Zayin Adar, the 7th of Adar, and most years Zayin Adar falls out in the week of Parshat Tetzaveh. So Hashem decided basically out of Parshat Tetzaveh, which is the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, we're going to take his name out of the parsha. Okay, that's what the title says, and that's what the Mefarshim explains. But it's a very interesting thing. First of all, then his name should be erased in Parshat Kisisa. Because when did Moshe Rabbeinu say, either forgive them or erase me from the Torah? Moshe Rabbeinu said it in Parshat Kisisa, in the next parsha. That would make sense when to take out his name when in the parsha that he said it, Parshat Kisisa. Secondly, not only is Zayin Adar the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's also the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Gemara says that when Haman cast lots to know which month would be a good month to destroy the Jewish people, and it fell out in the month of Adar, so Haman said, great, that's the day Moshe Rabbeinu died. It's a bad luck for the Jewish people. And the Gemara says what Haman didn't realize was that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Zayin Adar. And therefore it's good, the day of birth should forgive for the day of his passing. So really it's a good month. So the obvious question is, why did Hashem not take Moshe Rabbeinu out in next week's parsha? The question is even really stronger in a different aspect. A name is not the person. And I'll explain this at great length in a second. So Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not taken out. It's taken out. But instead, it says, Va'ata Tetzaveh. You command the Jewish people. You, Ata, is your essence. That's much greater than the name of Moshe Rabbeinu. So it's odd. We want to take out the name of Moshe Rabbeinu because he said, take me out of the Torah. And therefore we do it Parshat Tetzaveh. But according to that, the Torah says even greater than the name. Va'ata Tetzaveh, you command the Jewish people. You, Va'ata, a bunch of Va'atas in the Parsha. It doesn't say Moshe Rabbeinu's name, but the word Va'ata is much greater than a name. Like we learned when we were discussing brachas, Baruch Atah refers to the essence of Hashem, and then Hashem Elokeinu, the various names of Hashem. So what does the Torah gain, so to speak, by taking out the essence of Moshe, by the name of Moshe Rabbeinu? Instead, they put in the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu. Like, what does it make sense? So let me add to this a little bit. There's a Gemara. Don't ask me what it means, but the Gemara, the Medrash, not the Gemara. The Medrash says that Hashem went Mahalech Tak Shana Halach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem went a journey of 500 years to get a name. Liknei Shleishem, to get a name. Hashem traveled, whatever it means. Hashem traveled 500 years to get himself a name. Now, what's this number 500? Like, what's the cheshbon 5? What's the number 500? So it's explained in Chassidus that the number 500 is as follows. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Chamisha Shemes Nikrolo. The neshama has 5 names. And we learned many times, you don't need 5 names for the same thing. Therefore, what does it mean, 5 names? We learned already many times. It refers to the 5 levels of the neshama. What does it mean? There's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. In a nutshell, again, nefesh is the action, ruach are the midas, the emotions, neshama is the intellect, chaya is the willpower, and yechida is the essence. But the Gemara says, Chamisha Shemes Nikrola. The neshama has 5 names. That means even yechida is really a name of the neshama. Now, we know every neshama is composed of 10 levels. 3 intellect, 7 emotions. Chassidus explained each one of those is composed of 10. Okay? So therefore, each level of the neshama is composed of 100 levels. Each, like Rabbi Sphere saying that, there's 7 spheres, each one composed of 7. So we have the 49 days. When the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, I'm not elaborating on it, that when a person is 100 years old, it's like he died. What does that mean? When he's complete in all 100 levels of the soul. Now, if the soul has 5 levels, that means there's 500 levels within the soul. Nefesh has 100, Ruach has 100, Neshama has 100, Chai has 100, Yechid has 100. So basically, what is it? It's 500 levels of the names of the Neshama. So Chassidus explains, now what does it mean? Hashem traveled 500 years to get a name? Name which is not the essence of the person, only the way the person associates, we learned this many times, with other people to be identified, to be called, to be spoken about. You yourself don't need a name. So that's 500 levels of names. Now, what's interesting, the word Tetzaveh, the name of the Parshat Tov, Tzadik, Vav, Hey, equals 501. The word Tetzaveh equals 501. What does it mean, 501? 501 is higher than 500. 500 refers to the names of the neshama, the way the neshama associates. A person's name, the way he associates. Hashem went to acquire a name, meaning the way Hashem associates with the world. Tetzaveh is 501. Not only that, the Rebbe explains, the word asher, which comes from the word ashrei, ba'ashri, enjoyment, tainug. The word asher also equals 501. Aleph, shin, reish. 1, 300, 200 is 501. That refers not to the name of the person, but rather to the essence of the person. And this is what it's all about in today's Parshat with Moshe Rabbeinu. And that is as follows. Torah is called on the name of Moshe Rabbeinu. In fact, the Gemara says in Shabbos that when the Satan was looking for the Torah, after God gave the Torah, Hashem sent away the Satan. He shouldn't get in the way of Matan Torah. The Satan came back and says, "Where is Torah?" Anyway, bottom line, he said, "Moshe Rabbeinu, where's Torah? Where's Torah?" The Moshe said, "Who am I to know where Torah is? I'm a nothing." Hashem said, "Moshe Rabbeinu, you're a liar." He said, "What do you mean you don't? You have the Torah now. What do you mean you don't know where it is?" So Hashem said to Moshe that because you were so humble that you didn't think you were fit to be the one that gives the Torah, I'm going to call the whole Torah on your name. The pasuk says, "Zichru Torahs Moshe Avdi." Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. The whole Torah is Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, as the Gemara says, had Mesiras Nefesh for Torah. He fought with the Malachim. Moshe Rabbeinu had a tremendous amount of Mesiras Nefesh for Torah. Therefore, it's called Kivan the Hashem said, Kivan the Masin Nafshecha Aleha, because you gave your soul for Torah. I'm going to call the Torah on your name. So Moshe Rabbeinu had Mesiras Nefesh for Torah. But what's interesting over here, Moshe Rabbeinu said to God, "You can throw the whole book away if that means destroying the Jew." So we can imagine that Moshe Rabbeinu had more Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, for the Jews than he had for Torah. Because Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, "If you don't forgive the Jewish people, you can take me out of your whole book. I don't want to have anything to do with your Torah." Which means, Hashem says, Moshe Rabbeinu says, there's a level of Mesiras Nefesh greater than Torah, Mesiras Nefesh of Jews. Now, what level Jews sinned? What level of Jews are we talking about? Jews that sinned in the golden calf. Jews that sinned in the golden calf. Who is Moshe Rabbeinu giving up his life for? Not for the holy tzaddikim Jews, for the Jews that had the chutzpah that 40 days after Matan Torah, when they saw Nechi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, your God, they went and they worshipped the golden calf. It's pretty bad chutzpah. And yet, Moshe Rabbeinu said to God, if you don't forgive those Jews, I don't care about your Torah. Erase me from the book. So therefore, Chassidus explains that everything the opposite of the way it's perceived. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned in the Parsha is not because it's lower. On the contrary, Moshe Rabbeinu, because of his Mesiras Nefesh to the Jewish people, that he was willing to give up Torah to save a neshama, that level of Mesiras Nefesh brings out the Ato Tetzaveh. You, the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu, is in the Parsha. And that shows the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't care about names. We learned in Chassidus that the Gemara, the Medrash says, all the letters of Torah are names of Hashem. And Torah is the names of Hashem. Neshamas, Jews, are even greater than that. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu reached a level of Ata. It's not anymore Vayidaber Hashem or Moshe Lemer in this parsha. That would be a name of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, through his self-sacrifice, to give up Torah for the sake of neshamas, that showed that Moshe Rabbeinu's Mesiras Nefesh for Jews made him even greater than just his name in the parsha. It made his essence in the parsha. And we mentioned this many times, but it's a phenomenal concept. And I'll mention it briefly. When Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, the Gemara says in Shabbos, and the last Rashi of the whole Chumash is this: that when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, the Gemara says these are one of the three things Moshe Rabbeinu did, and Hashem agreed with it. Whatever the others are not relevant now. But one of the things Moshe Rabbeinu did, he broke the luchos, and God was happy that he broke the luchos. How do we know that God was happy that he broke the luchos? The Gemara says, because Moshe Rabbeinu was told, Asher shibarta solocha shnei luchos havanim karishenim, and the Torah of there says, Asher shibarta. Asher doesn't only mean which he broke. Asher means Yasher Koyach. Thank you for breaking it. Thank you for breaking the luchos. Why is Hashem telling Moshe Rabbeinu to break the luchos? Because Moshe Rabbeinu was faced with a dilemma. One of the two got to go. If Torah stays, then the Jews who worship idols got to get killed. If the Jews are to stay, Torah can't stay. You can't have both because Torah says don't commit idolatry, and they committed idolatry. So you can't have both. Moshe Rabbeinu coming down from the mountain was faced with a dilemma. Who stays and who goes? And Moshe Rabbeinu understood that if it's a choice of Jews or Torah, Torah goes and Jews stay because the Neshamas are even greater than Torah. And Hashem said, thank you for that. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu, by breaking the luchos and threatening that he want to be erased in the Torah, he reached the level of A'ata Tetzaveh, which is even greater than the name of Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Okay, that's one issue. Next is another remarkable issue that Rebbe spoke about in the famous Mammar, the last Mammar that the Rebbe edited. Not the last Mammar the Rebbe said a Mammar after A'ata Tetzaveh. But there was a Mammar of A'ata Tetzaveh, and it's a very long Mammar, a fantastic Mammar, beautiful Mammar, a fundamental Mammar about what a Rebbe is. But just a few points that are relevant to tonight, so to speak. It says in the Pasuk, the Torah begins the Parshat, Va'ata Tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael, you should command the Jews, okay? You, Moshe Rabbeinu, should command the Jews. V'yikchu eilecha, meaning the first Pasuk of the Parshat, V'yikchu eilecha, they should bring to you, Shemen zayizach, pure olive oil, Kosis pressed, Mammar for light, for the Menorah, Lahales ner tomi, to light up a continuous flame. The first pasuk is, you, Moshe, command the Jews, and they should bring to you pure crushed, pressed olive oil to light up, to light a continuous light of the Menorah. In the next pasuk, it says, the Menorah was lit me'erev ad boker, from evening to morning. Seemingly that's contradictory. If it's constant, then it can't be night to morning. That means during the day it wasn't lit. So what does tamid mean? So simply the explanation is every night is called tamid. Always mean at night, every single night the Menorah was lit. 365 days a year, the Menorah was lit at night, so that's called tamid. But there's a much deeper meaning here. And there's a bunch of questions here asked because l'chayra, why did they bring the oil to Moshe Rabbeinu? He didn't like the Menorah. Aaron HaKohen lit the Menorah. So the pasuk should have said, bring Aaron the oil. Why are they bringing it to Moshe? And secondly, and not but thirdly, or fourthly, whatever, it says, you command the Jewish people, which implies that Moshe Rabbeinu is commanding the Jews. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu is not commanding the Jews. Hashem's commanding the Jews. Why does it say, Va'ata Tetzaveh as b'nei Yisrael? Literally means you, Moshe Rabbeinu, command the Jews that they should bring oil. What does all this mean? Because Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, Zion Adar, and Dr. Rebbe says in Tanya from the Zohar that every Aveda that the tzaddik did goes up with him the day he passes away. All the Aved of the tzaddik that the tzaddik does in his lifetime goes up to heaven with him when he passes away. What is the role of Moshe Rabbeinu? What is actually the function and role of a Jewish leader, a leader like Moshe Rabbeinu? not only a leader like Moshe Rabbeinu, the Zohar says, is Pashtusa the Moshe b'chol dor v'dor. There is a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. Now the Rebbe says in Tanya, every Jew has a Moshe Rabbeinu within him. Every single Jew has a Moshe Rabbeinu within him. Because in Parshat Eikev, in the book of Dvarim, the pasuk says, "Va'ato Yisrael." Now, Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking to the Jews. Now, Yidden, Ma Hashem Elokecha Shel Mi'imach. What does God want from you already? Kiyim liyira. What big deal? What does God want from you? He only wants you to fear Him. So the Gemara asks, "V'chiyira milsas u'tasihi." Is fear such a Moshe Rabbeinu is not making? What does He want already? He just wants you to fear Him. So the Gemara asks, "Is that such an easy thing to fear? God, nobody would ever sin." And the Gemara answers a very strange answer. The Gemara says, "The Gabi Moshe Moshe." Yeah, for Moshe Rabbeinu it's easy. So now the Rebbe asks in Tanya, but Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking to the Jewish people, and he says, "Va'ati Yisrael Mashem Shel Mi'imach." What does Hashem want from you? Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar. What does Hashem want from all you Jews? Not talking about himself. What type of answer is in the Gemara is that Moshe Rabbeinu, for Moshe Rabbeinu it's easy. And therefore the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, every Jew has a Moshe Rabbeinu within them. Every Jew has a Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, every Jew has a Moshe Rabbeinu. Every generation has a Moshe Rabbeinu. And then the Moshe Rabbeinu. What is the function of a Jewish leader? And this is what the pasuk, the Ata Tetzaveh, is teaching us. The Ata Tetzaveh is, the word Tzaveh does not only mean command. The Zohar says, what does the word mitzvah mean? Tzavza v'chibur, connection and binding. The Zohar says a mitzvah binds a Jew to God. That's what the purpose of a mitzvah is. He says like this, Va'ata you, Moshe Rabbeinu. Let me tell you what your role and function is. Tetzaveh as B'nai Yisrael, you need to connect the Jews with God. The role of a Moshe Rabbeinu, the pasuk says, is you should connect the Jews with Hashem. How? So he says like this, V'yichu elecha, the Jews should take to you, meaning you become greater, Moshe Rabbeinu. And I'm going to say explain the whole thing. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, when you connect the Jews to Hashem, you become greater. You become greater. Because in Kisisa, the pasuk says, by the ego, lech reid, go down, and Rashi quotes in the Gemara, Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, lech reid migdulascha, go down, not physically from the mountain only, go down from your greatness. Klum nasati l'cha gedula ela b'shvil Yisrael. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, the only reason I gave you greatness was because of the Jews. The Jews are out, so are you. Get out of here. So it's self-understood. The greater the Jews become, the greater Moshe Rabbeinu becomes. So through Moshe Rabbeinu connecting the Jews to Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu v'yikhu elecha, Moshe Rabbeinu becomes great. But what do we need to do? We need to bring pure oil, kosis, pressed. What does it mean, pressed? The Rebbe Rashab said the expression, Hazayis shaketchen eisei neising shamnei. When an olive is pressed, it gives its oil. What does that mean? We all know the greatness of a person comes out through difficult times. Where do you see the greatness of a marriage? When there's difficulty in marriage and they still make it work and work it out. When a person has troubles in life and they work it out, that's the true test of a relationship, of a life. the true essence of the person comes out when they're pressed. Chassidus, when the Jews were pressed. And in the Mammar, the Rebbe speaks about the story of Purim. Okay, Wednesday night we'll talk much more about Purim. But the story of Purim is Haman made a gzeda, a decree. The Jews were oppressed. But because they were oppressed, they came to the miracle of Purim. In 1927, when the Friedrich Rebbe was arrested in Soviet Russia with a death sentence, and he didn't care what the Russians said, and he didn't care what they thought, and he did what he did anyway. So it says that level of chassidus is a level of oppression. What is the role of a tzaddik? The role of a Rebbe, of a Mordechai, of a Moshe Rabbeinu, of a Rebbe, or any person within themselves, the Moshe Rabbeinu, is to bring out the ultimate greatness of the Jew. And therefore, the Rebbe explains, the Ata Tetzaveh is b'nei shemen zayis toch kosis, pressed, and then the next word should have said la'or, lahoya, to light. The Torah uses the word lama'or, which means to the source of light. And let me explain. Now, this is it, and now I'm going to explain it. We'll put everything into place. We learned many, many times. There's a famous Gemara in Brachos. It says, Ganva apum machtarta rachmana karya, which translated simply is, a thief, when he's at the threshold about to break into a home, he davens to Hashem to be successful. He davens to Hashem to be successful. Now, that's what the Gemara says. Stop to think for a second. It doesn't make sense. Obviously, he believes in Hashem. If he wouldn't believe in Hashem, he wouldn't daven. He knows Hashem says don't steal. Okay, 10 Commandments, whether not stealing, regular stealing. But in the Torah it says don't steal. He knows you're not allowed to steal. That's why he's doing it discreetly. The Jew knows you're not allowed to steal. He knows God says don't steal. He obviously believes in Hashem. That's why he's davening. And yet he's going ahead and stealing. What's the explanation for that? So Chassidus explains, because the amunah that a Jew has is what's called in the Eifen of makif, superficial. It doesn't affect him directly. It affects him only indirectly. If the amunah and the faith of a Jew would be internalized, then they would feel God, and then no Jew would sin. Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai on his deathbed, Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai, the one who lived 120 years like Moshe Rabbeinu, on his deathbed, his students say, Rebbe, give us a piece of advice for life. And he said, you should fear God as much as you fear a human being. And they said, what? That's it? We should fear God only as much as fearing a human being? And he said, halavai, if it would only be true. He said, when a person watches you, you're not going to kill, and you're not going to steal, and you're not going to do anything you shouldn't be doing. He said, at least fear God that much. Halavai, you would fear God as if there's a person watching every action that you're doing. So a Jew has a munah. Every Jew, maminim, b'nei maminim, the Gemara says. Every Jew are believers, the children of believers. And I mentioned many times, the guy came to the Rebbe and he said, Rebbe, I don't believe in God. So the Rebbe said to him, the fact that you say you don't believe in God doesn't take away from the fact that you do, because the Gemara says every Jew is a believer. So why does anybody sin? Because the amunah is not felt internally. It doesn't affect us directly. Yeah, of course I believe in God. Ask any Jew that sins. Speak lashon hara, thought, thinking, doing, whatever. You believe, okay, they'll smack you in the face in 40 minutes. Of course I believe in Hashem. So why are you sitting? Because the Amunah is only superficial. It doesn't affect me directly. This level of Amunah, in more or less, is the level of Das, of feeling godliness. There's a difference between knowing what's right or wrong and feeling what's right or wrong, as we spoke many times. The job of a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation is to connect, bind the Jews to Hashem, to internalize the Amunah that every Jew has by just being Jewish, to internalize it in a way that we feel the Amunah, we feel godliness. And that usually comes when a person is oppressed. And I'll explain more about that later when we get into the various different altars, the mizbeches that were in the Mishkan, in the Beis Hamikdash. Chassidus, like we know, what made the Jews have the Mesiras Nefesh by Mordechai and Haman? The fact there was a decree against them. What made Jews not assimilate? When they were oppressed. But the uniqueness of the tzaddik is to realize what oppression that particular generation needs. In Mordechai's time, it was to gather 22,000 students and learn Torah. In the previous Rebbe's time, it was to have Mesiras Nefesh, fighting single-handedly against the entire Russian Empire. Stalin. And because he did, look what's going on in Russia today. That's all offshoots of the underground mikvahs and schools and yeshivas and shuls that existed in the 1920s. So the role of a Mordechai, the role of a Moshe Rabbeinu, the role of a Rebbe, the role of every person within themselves is to realize what that particular generation needs. And Rebbe says there's another level of Chassidus, of being oppressed. And what is that? Not the oppression of anti-Semitism, not the oppression of people fighting religion, just the opposite. It's the oppression of freedom that causes a Jew to be complacent in Golus. It just doesn't happen. What do I need Mashiach for? I have a nice car, I have a nice house, I have a nice job, I have a nice pool. What do I need it? I can go to the restaurant. What do I need Mashiach for? And just for the record, what our Rebbe did in our generation, as everybody, if you learn the Sikhs, you know, the Rebbe was screaming that you cannot be complacent in Golus. That Jews have to scream, Ad Mosai, how much longer do we have to suffer in Golus? How much more do we have to suffer with going on in the world? The Lai Golus, which means enough Golus, that is also a level of Chassidus. And the Rebbe explains in that Mammar that that level of oppression is more difficult than the oppression of anti-Semitism and decrees against Yiddishkeit. And the Rebbe says very simply in the Mammar, he proves it. He said there were Jews that in Russia had an unbelievable level of self-sacrifice. They sat in Siberia 10 years, 20 years. The Rebbe once by a Fabrengen, when the Russians started coming out, I remember that Fabrengen. The Rebbe, there was a lot of Russians that the Rebbe brought that just came out of Russia and they were at the Fabrengen. And the Rebbe made an auction at the Fabrengen. It was a very interesting type of auction. The Rebbe wanted all the Russians that came from the Soviet Union to scream out how many years they sat in prison, how many years they were exiled to Siberia. And this guy was screaming 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 3 or 4 years, 3. The Rebbe wanted, it was an auction. Who sat longer? And yet, the Rebbe writes, The same people, when they came out to the free country, the Rebbe says, you don't see, not God forbid there isn't Chassidus nefesh, but you don't see the same level of self-sacrifice that these same people had in Russia. What's wrong with that? And this is where the pasuk here continues. Lahales ner tamid. Chassidus nefesh has emunah, internalization of Yiddishkeit, internalization of the faith and belief in Hashem. It has to be lahales ner tamid. It has to be constant. The Torah says me'erev ad boker. So the Rebbe defines it like this: erev is evening, night, when things are tough. Boker, morning, when things are shining, things are good. Moshe Rabbeinu's role is to connect the Jews to Hashem in such a way that this level of internalization of emunah and faith and belief in Hashem is so internalized that it's continuous. Whether you're in a situation of evening in Russia, in Haman, in Spanish Inquisition, or Baker when we're free in America, that not only are we allowed to practice religion, the government helps us practice religion. But sometimes we forget about the Chassidus nefesh that we need. And this is the whole concept, by the way, of Ata Tetzaveh B'nai Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu connects the Jews to Hashem in a way that he makes them feel oppressed. Not oppressed physically, that you don't have what to eat or sleep, whatever. It means, it depends what type of oppression. Sometimes it's oppression from the outside of anti-Semitism or decrees against Yiddishkeit. Sometimes it could be Baker. It could be the oppression of freedom. What do you mean that it should, the Rebbe writes in the Mammar, it should actually bother the person, bother them that they're sitting in Golus. That should be the causes. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that does it for the Jewish people. Okay, a few more things. At the beginning of the Parsha, again, it talks about the Menorah. So the actual making of the Menorah is in Parshat Truma. But it says over there, really in Parshat Baleischa, V'za ma'aseh ha-Menorah miksha zahav. This is the doing of the Menorah to be beaten out of one piece of gold. Okay? So basically, Rashi quotes in the Medrash that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't understand the Menorah. He couldn't understand it, how to make it. So Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, throw the kikar, which is the measurement of gold, throw the kikar into the fire, and out came a Menorah. Okay? Which is a very difficult statement to understand. There were kalim in the Beis Hamikdash which were more difficult to do and to make. Rashi says that they wove min ha'izim. Rashi quotes in the Medrash. Rashi and Chumash quotes in the Medrash that the women, when they made the curtains for the Mishkan, wove it while it was still on the animal. You know what type of brilliance that is? How to make the kalim of the Beis Hamikdash. They were very difficult kalim to make, and everybody was able to make them. Betzalel, his partner Eliyav, Moshe Rabbeinu, they know how to do it. What was the big deal with the Menorah? Because later on in generations, by the way, when they had to redo a golden Menorah, they had to do it the same way. They had to take simple block of gold, and you couldn't do it piecework. There was no soldering in the Menorah. They had a block of gold, pure gold, and they banged it out until they made all the decorations on the Menorah. They did it later on in history. So what was Moshe Rabbeinu's problem with the Menorah? So again, Chassidus explains that Moshe Rabbeinu's problem wasn't the making of the Menorah. The Menorah had 7 branches. Excuse me, the Menorah had 7 branches. Why 7 branches? So it's explained that the Jews are likened to the Menorah. There are 7 midos, 7 emotions. And like it's, there's Jews that serve Hashem out of love, Jews that serve Hashem out of fear, Jews that Hashem out of beauty, out of strength, out of all the various different 7 midos. That's what the Medrash said. There's 7 different types of Jews, and the Menorah represents every single type of a Jew. Every single type of a Jew. What was I? And also, there's another interesting thing. In Parshat Vayischa, it says that Cain also, Tetzaveh Hashem es Moshe, Cain also. The way Hashem commanded Aaron to light the Menorah, Aaron lit the Menorah. And it says, Rashi quotes again from the Gemara and from the Medrash, Lahagid shvachei shel Aaron shaleshina, is to tell us the greatness of Aaron, that he did exactly like Hashem told him to do. Simply, Aaron did a good job taking a fire from the Mizbeach and lighting the Menorah. Okay, now you tell me, that's something great? Every woman lights Shabbos candles every week. Every man lights Hanukkah Menorahs on Hanukkah. Nobody goes crazy. What is the praise of Aaron? He was told, light the Menorah. He lit the Menorah. What's the big deal? So Chassidus explains, what Aaron did was not the physical striking the match and lighting the Menorah, like we do. When Aaron lit the Menorah, he kindled every single type of Jew. He lit up 7 branches. He lit up the loving Jew and the fearing Jew and the beauty Jew and the power Jew, and all types of Jews that Aaron lit up. And Aaron understood what his work was. And he understood what he was doing. He would have freaked out from the shaking of realizing what he's doing. He's illuminating every single possible Jew. And yet Aaron's greatness was, he still did it simply the way Hashem told him to do it. Knowing exactly what he was accomplished, he would be shaking, knowing what he would be doing. And yet he did it the way Hashem told him to. That was his greatness. What does this mean for us? Moshe Rabbeinu said, Hashem, how is it possible that one Jew, Aaron, can relate to every single type of Jew? You can't. Everybody has friends. Everybody relates to a different type of a Jew. This person relates to Chesed. This person relates to Gvura. One Aaron HaKohen, Moshe Rabbeinu said, God, how could this be? How could it be that Aaron HaKohen is relating to every single different type of Jew? So Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, you're right. Throw it into the fire. And this is connected to the point that the Menorah had to be one piece. Like we said, it wasn't piecework. It was one piece of gold. What did Hashem answer Moshe? She told him a fiery Menorah. That made it better. Now he'll figure it out how to do it. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, let me explain to you. All Jews are really one. In the source, they're one block of gold. They are one block of gold. It's just that they're beaten out into 7 different levels. But the essence of the Jew, they're all the same. Throw it into the fire because every Jew has a fiery neshama. Ner Hashem nishma sodom, the candle of God is the neshama. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, every Jew is a fire. Every Jew originates in the same place. You want to know how can the Menorah illuminate every possible type of a Jew? Because we're really all the same. And we're going to see that now with the two altars that exist in the Beis Midrash, it's the same point. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, throw it into the fire. You want to know how every Jew is lit up? We're all the neshamas of fire. We're all miksha. We're one piece of solid gold. It's the one piece of solid gold. They're just carved out differently. But yes, Aaron Akayin lit the essence of every Jew. And by the way, that's the job of the Menorah, of every Jew. When we have to become, like the Rebbe Rashab said, we have to become lamplighters. We have to go kindle the Menorah. And there's a very interesting halacha. Lighting the Menorah, a Kohen did not have to light the Menorah. The Gemara says, Hadlaka Kshera Bezor, a non-Kohen, a Yisrael Levi was allowed to light the Menorah. But preparing the wicks and the oil, that a Kohen had to do. What does that mean? What does that mean in our personal Menorah? It means very simple. If you want to go light yourself and go illuminate and light up somebody else, you can't come out and say, who am I? I'm a simple Jew. I'm not a great rabbi. I'm a simple Jew. What do I know? The Torah says you don't have to be a Kohen to light the Menorah. Any Jew can light the Menorah. Any Jew can kindle ourselves and somebody else. But how to do it, the preparation of the oil and the wick, that has to be established by Kohanim. In other words, you want to bring somebody closer to Yiddishkeit. You want to light them up, you have to do it the Torah way. Which means, very simply, you can't compromise Torah to bring another Jew closer, because that's not what Torah allows. Torah says every Jew cannot, nobody can cop out and say, I can't do it, who am I, I'm a nothing, I'm a nobody. Torah says, you're a Jew, you don't have to be a Kohen. Any Jew can light the Menorah of everybody else. But how to do it, the preparation of the wicks and the oil, that you have to follow Torah. You're not allowed to compromise Torah to bring another Jew closer. You have to do it the way the Torah says, and then every person can do it. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand the Menorah, and that's how Hashem answered it by throwing it into the fire. Okay, another point over here is like this. The Torah speaks about, there is two altars in the Beis HaMikdash. There was the Mizbeach HaZahav, which was all the way in, where the Shulchan and the Menorah was, right outside the Holy of Holies. And that was called the Mizbeach HaZahav, golden altar. And what did they do on that altar? They brought the Chassidus, they brought the incense, the Chassidus, incense every day in the Beis HaMikdash, that the Kohen had to bring the Chassidus. Okay? That was what the Mizbeach HaPrimi, the inner Mizbeach, was called the golden Mizbeach. There was the outer Mizbeach, which was more out in the Beis HaMikdash. That was a big Mizbeach made out of earth coated with copper. The Mizbeach HaZav is also made out of earth plated with gold. And that was for the Korbanos. Okay? We learned already, every Jew has a Menorah in them. We have to build our own Mishkan, like we learned last week. Every Jew has a Mizbeach. Every Jew has an Arden, a Menorah, a Shulchan, everything. But the Gemara says like this, the last Mishnah in Chagiga, in the tractate Chagiga, the Mishnah says the following. Every Keli, all the utensils, not the Arden, but the Shulchan, the Menorah, they all were able to become tamei, impure. In fact, the Gemara says after Yom Tov, they used to have to immerse the Shulchan and the Menorah all into the mikveh, because people came from all types of people. They might have been impure. There are only two things the Mishnah says never became impure: the golden altar and the necheshes, the copper altar, which was where they brought the korbanos. The Gemara said, the Mishnah said, they did not become tamei. Why? So Rabbi Eliezer says, because they were basically earth, meaning like this. The Mizbeach necheshes, the outer Mizbeach, the Torah says was made out of earth and coated with copper. The Mizbeach HaPnimi, the Gemara learns from a pasuk the connection between the two, and therefore it has the same din like earth. And earth, the din is earth can never become tummy. You can never impurify earth. You have a dead body on earth. The earth doesn't become tummy. Earth can never become tummy. So Rabbi Eliezer says, why did the Mizbeach not become tummy? Because it's earth, basically. Chachamim don't, well, one opinion was that they disagree, but Chachamim say no. There's another reason why it wasn't Mekabel Tumah. Because they were only coated. They were coated with gold and they were coated with copper. And the coating is subjugated and bottled to the actual Mizbeach, and because the Mizbeach was never moved, therefore it had a din like earth, and the earth is not Mekabel Tumah, and therefore the Mizbeach couldn't become tummy. In other words, like this, either because it itself is earth, or because the coating, it's only a coating, and therefore the coating cannot become tummy. Okay, that's what the Mishnah says at the end of Chagigah. Now, there's the Mizbeach, which we brought Korban Esan, represents the heart of the Jew, the neshama of the Jew. Menorah, for instance, is Tetzaveh, represents the mind of the Jew. The Mizbeches, the two Mizbeches, correspond with the heart of the Jew. You have to sacrifice your animal soul during davening, that's in the heart. The Tetzaveh, we discussed last week, transformation of Chelbana, the stinky spice to make it holy, is also in the Nefesh Habam, in the heart of the person, in the neshama. But there's two types of coverings. There's a copper covering and there's a golden covering. What does this mean? The Rebbe explains in the Sikha as follows. There's wealth and there's poverty. Gold represents wealth. Copper, like we said last week, is the cheapest material. It's not an expensive material. Necheshes represents poverty. You have spiritual wealth, physical wealth, spiritual poverty, and physical poverty. The two mizbachis, the two mizbeachs, which is in English, represent two different types of Jews. Jews that are wealthy, whether it's physical or spiritual, and Jews that are poor, physical and spiritual. And the Mishnah says a phenomenal concept. They can never become tameh. A Jew can never become impure. Whether you sin because you're rich, or you sin because you're poor, because sometimes the rich man says, I can't do mitzvahs, I'm too busy making money. The poor man says, I have nothing to eat, how do you expect me to do mitzvahs? In other words, whether you sin because you're rich, or you sin because you're poor, and that means physically and spiritually. The Torah says you can never become tameh. A Jew can never become impure. Your intellect could become impure. Your emotions could become impure. But the Jew can never become impure. Why? So Rabbi Eliezer says, because the Mizbeach is earth. What is Afar? Afar represents bittul, humility, nothingness. We say in Shmonat, v'nafshi ka'afar lakol tiyah. The earth is something everybody steps on. Rabbi Eliezer says, you know why a Jew can't become tameh? Because he's earth. He's really bittul. The essence of the Jew is batal to Hashem. Chachamim come and add to that something very beautiful. They're not disagreeing, they're adding. Because the coating of gold or necheshes or copper, it's only a coating. It's bluff. It's a covering. It's not the essence of what the Jew really is. So even when a Jew sins with the gold covering or the copper covering, whatever reason is that they're sinning, the Chachamim say, and that's the halacha like the Chachamim, it's only a facade. It's only a cover. It's not the real person. The real person is the Mizbeach itself connected to the ground. Either it's ground, earth itself, like the outer Mizbeach, or it's connected to the ground, never moves, has a din of earth. And therefore the Mishnah says in the Mizbeachas, which are discussed in this week's Parsha, that the Jew is never able to become Tamei, because a Jew, the Mizbeach, the heart of the Jew, is always Lev Yisrael Erhu. It's always awake. Afal Pisha Chata Yisrael. The Gemara says even when a Jew sins, he's still Yisrael. And the Rebbe points out, the Gemara doesn't say Afal Pisha Chata Yehudihu. He's still a Yehudi. Yisrael is the highest level of a Jew. Li Rosh. Sar Kel. What does Yisrael refer to? The highest level of a Jew. Afal Pisha Chata Yisrael, because a Jew, the Mizbeach of the Jew can never become Tamei. And this is beautifully, if you look at the whole Mishkan, we're having lighting the Menorah of every single Jew, whether no matter what type of Jew you are. We have the Mizbeach, all this is in Parshat V'ato Tetzaveh. Moshe Rabbeinu connects the essence of the Jew, no matter who they are, he connects them to Hashem. By internalizing the Amunah, that Jews should feel the Amunah, feel the understanding of Elokus, not only intellectually, but feeling it subjectively. This is the way we build the Mishkan within ourselves. And this is the greatness of Ata Tetzaveh. Because the whole time the Torah is saying Va'ata instead of the name, it's the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu. The essence of Moshe Rabbeinu is revealed in this parsha. And the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu connects to the essence of every single Jew. And that's why in these parshas, which it has to do with the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu, you have all the kelim of the Mishkan, the breastplate of the crane, the apron of the crane, the tzitz of the crane. All these things represent everything a Jew needs to do in his personal life in serving Hashem. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem, Wednesday night, we will discuss just some very basic practical dinim of Purim. There's the Halacha newsletter you can get online. If you go to the show website, we'll discuss the Chassidic aspect of Purim. Once again, tonight's class is sponsored by Mrs. Sarah Carmelli in honor of her new great granddaughter. She'll continue to have a lot of mazel and bracha and adichs yom v'shanim tevis.
Amen.
I want to mention those that are connected to the shul. Mitzvah Hashem, Thursday night, Ma'ariv will be at 6:15. We'll have a Megillah reading immediately after Ma'ariv. There'll be another Megillah reading 7:30 and 8:30 that night. So Thursday night, there's a 6:25 Megillah reading, 7:30 and 8:30. Friday morning, there's a davening at 6 with Megillah 6:30, another davening 7:30 with Megillah at 8, and then there's another Megillah reading at 9, 10, and 11 at the show. Everybody should have a great week, and we should get ready for Purim properly, and the Eibishter will help, that we'll be able to celebrate Purim in Eretz Yisrael with Mashiach.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you
It's lovely. Thank you so much. Beautiful.
Mazel tov, Sarah Carmelli.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Praise Hashem for